The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, man, I'm glad we're able to do this because I can't even believe it's been like 4 years. I think like literally 4 years. And that's when kind of you hit my radar. So anyway, listen, everybody, got a great guest today, a really super interesting guy that, as I've said, I've kind of been following for the past 4 years. And his name is Ian Smith. And, you know, Ian came to notoriety literally 4 years ago during COVID, when at the time you were in New Jersey, I think, and basically you decided you're not shutting down your gym. And that thing made national headlines. So, hey, first of all, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, let's start there because, man, that story is wild. Give us the summary of that thing.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. I'm happy to be here and enjoying the conversation so far. So, yeah, COVID was an interesting experience. I mean, I think everybody can say that in some degree or another. But I was about 9 months in at the time to a brand new business. I had been in the fitness space for better part of a decade through corporate fitness, and eventually made my way to being an independent personal trainer. Training is something that I just always loved, and no matter where I was in the gym, whether I was selling memberships or whatever, I really just wanted to be training people. Physical fitness did a lot for me as an individual and for a man. I underwent a lot of really positive growth as a result of kind of getting in shape and learning about my body. So my passion was always wanting to share that with others, because it made me a radically better, like I said, both a better person and a better man overall. So I went off on my own, and I was very successful very quickly, sort of in the capacity that a one-man show can be. Sort of hit my ceiling very fast. I was within 2 years, I was doing about 90 to 100 1-hour sessions a week.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was crushing it. I was doing fantastic. I got lucky in a lot of ways with my business. Starting out, I was really at the beginning of the wave of where social media became a marketing tool. Or early on, definitely not at the beginning, but very early on, I sort of realized the capacity for business growth and for sharing as a small business, very competitively marketing, using social media. And I leveraged that really, really well in the early days of Instagram and Facebook, and even stuff like Snapchat. So sort of hit my ceiling. I couldn't work, I couldn't really get any more successful. I could only work so many hours in a day, and I had my own studio, and I wasn't really positioned to run a whole lot of other trainers out there. So the opportunity came along to buy a gym, and it was a dump of a gym. The bones were great, so they say, but it was neglected. There was absent ownership. The culture within the gym was very unwelcoming and downright toxic, especially to women. It was just like a very aggressive, and not in a good way aggressive, just a very hostile gym. Also to newcomers, like it was a very, like just cliquey place. And we came in there and we gave it some TLC, and we busted up the sort of environment. We brought a whole lot of life into it. And the next month, we had a thriving business. We were able to turn it around and pay the bills in the first month, in a business that was 6 months behind on rent. And we really just sort of were going through exponential growth. And 9 months into that, 8 months into that, the whispers of the coronavirus came to the airways, and we heard about it first. And then it was just this weird thing. Everybody kind of remembers this part of the story. It was this bat soup, and then all of a sudden there was like a case in California, and then it was like, you started hearing like the whispers of like martial law and lockdowns, and I think collectively we were all like, what are we, like, quarantining? But those whispers grew louder, and eventually the shutdown order came in New Jersey, and that was a very scary thing for a lot of people, but especially for business owners. And there was no path forward. It was just kind of like, yeah, give us 14 days. But our bills were still due, and then, they promised us money, and we didn't really know what we were actually afraid of. We were seeing people fall, in the streets in China on videos in the news, and bodies stacked outside of, New York hospitals, and all of this stuff that was sort of very overwhelming. There was the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. We had all these weird little incidents, and I think it was just a very confusing time, obviously. But that order came to shut down, and my partner and I did not really agree with it at all. But unfortunately, at the time, we didn't know enough to confidently stay open. We didn't like the idea for a lot of reasons. One, we were doing great. Why would we want to close our business? Two, how are we going to pay our bills? Three, I don't really trust government, to begin with. I just know that things are a slippery slope, when it comes to governmental powers, you know. So there was a lot wrong with it. But again, at the end of the day, we didn't really know enough, and we didn't know enough to confidently stay open, because at the end of the day, we didn't want to hurt anybody. I mean, it wasn't,
Sure.
if it was something where people were really dropping dead, we wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that, obviously. So we shut down, but we were very sort of aware of what was going on. We went right to work the next day as a new gym with a lot of repairs. We had plenty to keep us busy. And day one, I'll try to make this story short, or at least not tell you the long version, because we could do a whole podcast on it. But day one, I was working out in the gym after we had done some work, and I was doing some lat pull downs on one of the cable machines, and a police officer came in the building and said that we would be fined $50,000 and have our business license suspended and have all these court charges against us if I didn't stop working out in my gym. A 14,000 square foot
And this
facility.
is you by yourself in
By
your
myself.
gym.
I mean, me and my partner are in there, but it's 14,000 square feet. It's a huge gym. And we were like, what? What do you? So immediately red flag number one. And then, the red flags just kind of kept coming and kept coming. And, it was killing me, and it felt very wrong. Every day I was driving to work, I was driving down this, this 8-lane highway in New Jersey, and it was just empty, and it just felt wrong and weird. And I would drive by a mall on the way down, and the mall was packed. The Home Depot was packed. The Walmart was packed. And then I'd pull into the strip mall where the gym was, and it's vacant, and it just didn't feel right. So that sort of prompted us to really pay attention. All the red flags, and the more we paid attention, the more red flags they were. The more red flags, the more we paid attention. And very, very quickly, we came to the conclusion that we were being bamboozled in some regard. We didn't understand the complexity of it at all, but we knew that we were being lied to, and we knew that there was clear winners and losers in this situation, and that regular people like us were getting the short end of the stick, while places like Walmart and stuff like that. And it just, it's just not right. And we were watching businesses go out left and right. I mean, within a week or two, there was businesses that were folding, because even in, business is not easy, even when it's good.
Right. Right.
And that's something that politicians don't understand, because these people have never built anything in the real world. They think it's like, oh, just shut down. But even when business is good, it's not easy. And especially when it comes to small businesses, there's no cash reserves. There's no, at least in most small businesses, because most small businesses are under 5 years old. There's no, cushy bank account to sit on and to, to be able to pay your bills. And most small businesses are just a couple bad months away from going out of business. I mean, they just don't operate like that. So it was really, really irritating and frustrating. And we read the economic stimulus plan on day 11 of the shutdown, the $2.4 trillion economic stimulus plan. And I remember thinking, like, man, what's $1 trillion? And because we hear these words, and found out that $1 trillion, if you were to count second by second, it would take you 55,000 years to reach $1 trillion. And like, we're just printing this money, right? And so it's like, this is insane. And then we started to look at where the money was going, and we read that 1,000-page stimulus bill. And a lot of people know, the hospitals were being like incentivized, to record COVID deaths and stuff like that. But one of the things that we caught early on was that the states were being incentivized by this stimulus bill by the federal government to push PCR tests, and they were getting paid for every positive test. So if you remember back then, they used to say, get tested even if you don't feel bad.
Right. Right. Yep.
And so we looked at what a PCR test is, and we find out that a PCR test is not a tool for diagnosis. It's a tool for research. It doesn't identify something and say, yes, you are positive. It takes what you're looking at and blows it up. So that's why, Coca-Cola was coming up positive on PCR tests. So we saw this incentivization for fear. And really that was kind of it. It was like, okay, we're done here. Like, we're done. We're not going to be a victim in this. We're not going to roll over. We're going to do it for ourselves, but we're going to do it for everybody else who's feeling exactly like we are and might be scared or can't do it or whatever it is. So the next 6 weeks, we put together a comprehensive safety protocol that went so far above and beyond what anybody else who was open was doing. We looked at medical, we looked at government, we looked at essential businesses, all that. We took everything, we put it all in place, and then we found extra. We changed our filters in our HVAC system. We brought in these, they were called air scrubbers. They circulated, I think it was 3,000 cubic square feet of air per minute. And we had several units, and pulled it through like a UV light. So cleaned it. I mean, we went above and beyond. And we were very fortunate because people found out that we were opening. So people like would come to us with this technology and say, hey, we'll give this to you. Or, hey, we'll give this to you at a cost. I mean, we had everything. We had spray bottles for every single member of the gym who was going to come in. Everybody had to carry their own spray bottle, spray things down before and after they used it. We had a halftime set during the day where we would empty out the gym and come through and clean it and air it out. I mean, it was like ludicrous what we were doing, but we did that on purpose because we knew that they weren't going to be okay with what we were doing. So we wanted to make sure that it would be ludicrous for them to come and say, hey, we know you're doing all these things and you're publicly doing it and you're filming it and you're showing the world that you're doing it, so you're not lying about it. But we're still going to shut you down anyway because we said so. And that's exactly what we did.
At that point, were the bigger guys like a Planet Fitness? I don't know if there was LA Fitness out there, chain gyms. Gosh, I don't even know how many chain fitness gyms there are these days, or especially in 2020. But I remember at that time I had a LA Fitness membership and they just closed down. So like the bigger guys weren't open, but you guys decided, you know what, we're going to open back up and we're going to do all of these precautions, which sounds, first of all, expensive. I'm glad some people donated some stuff for you, but man, talk about doing it in good faith. It seems like you were about as good faith as humanly possible, but still that wasn't what they wanted to see. They wanted you totally closed. So at this point, is it the
exactly
is
they
it
weren't
the
interested
city?
in a solution?
Yeah, they're not interested in the solution at that point. And again, back 2020, man, fear was gripping everybody. So at this point, was the city coming down on you? Was the state coming down on you? I remember reading articles in the New York Post, the USA Today. It was almost like you were getting fined on a daily basis. So talk us through who was trying to really, I guess, who was in charge of getting rid of you or shutting you down?
So I'll speed up the story. So we decided to open, and we opened 2 months to the day that we were shut down. So the thing was, they asked for 2 weeks. We gave them 2 months. There's still no plan to reopen. You guys are kicking the ball around. You know, you're letting restaurants serve liquor, takeout, but we can't. We can't do anything, and none of it made sense. So anyway, I made an announcement a week before, 7 weeks into the shutdown. I went on my Instagram, and I just kind of talked into the phone over and over and over again until I got it right. And it was who we were, what we were doing, why we thought it was important, and how we were going to do it to keep people safe. And we also encouraged, like, hey, if you're a small business owner, if you're a church, if you're a school, a kindergarten, and you agree with us, like, here's what we're doing. Here's all of the things that we're going to do to keep people safe, right? Because they kept telling us it's about safety, it's about safety, it's about safety. Well, here's all the things that we could possibly do. Here's our plan. Take it, run with it, adapt it to your business, do it with us. We're opening next week. And the next day I got a phone call from a producer in Washington. Washington phone number. I pick up the phone. They said, "Hey, is this Ian Smith?" I said, "Yes." They're like, "You own a gym in New Jersey?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Are you going to open your gym next week?" And I said, "Yeah." "Who's this?" And he said, "It's Alex from the Tucker Carlson show." And I was like, "Oh, hi." Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we were genuinely hoping that like the local news syndicate might pick up on the story, like,
Yeah.
because we knew that if we were going to butt heads with the government, which was probably what was going to happen, it wasn't likely that they were going to be like, "Oh, it's okay, just disobey our order."
Right. Right.
Like, and we didn't expect that. That would have been nice, but so we were hoping for one, maybe Fox Philadelphia to come, and Tucker Carlson calls and says, "I want you on the show tonight." So I said, "Okay." I went to the studio. I was nervous. I was like looking into, I'm in this like studio with the backdrop up behind me, and I've got like makeup on my face and lights in my face, and there's just like a camera, and all I can see is myself. And I can hear, Tucker's monologue and the intro and the monologue, and he starts talking about the gym, and like my heart is just racing. So much so that I could feel it and hear it in my eardrums.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, here we go. Like, here we go. Like, this is it. You like,
Dude,
you
that's
learned
like getting called up to the majors. Like you were expected to maybe get some double A ball in with the local, and then it got called up to the majors. I will say this, and I've said this before in regards to Tucker Carlson in particular, is that, I started following him during COVID because I literally was like, this is the only guy that seems to be at least coming at this from a common sense standpoint and not just regurgitating the same line. I want to say this as well. It's very interesting, your sort of, I guess, awakening that happened. Because honestly, I had a very similar story. And I mean, I ended up writing a book about it called Deep Shallow Dive Into You, which was predicated on the whole COVID situation made me just be like, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And what I think is
Once you see it,
incredibly,
it's hard to unsee.
it is. Once you see it, it's hard to unsee it.
Yeah.
And
I would say it's impossible to unsee it.
our similarities extend to not only that, but obviously the health and wellness stuff. Let's do this because again, man, we could talk for 2 hours about all of that. It's over, right? Like your lawsuit's over, things are done.
We wound up in, we started getting municipal citations on day one. We wound up accumulating over 80 of them, almost 90. Those municipal citations turned into a court order. The municipal citations, it's like violation of a governor's orders, noise disturbances, zoning violations, they were throwing anything they could at us. Public nuisance. Those were taken by the Attorney General in New Jersey under the governor's orders, with the health department shutdown that we also ignored. They came and stapled some papers on the door and said, like, "You are hereby closed because coronavirus," and we were just like, okay, whatever. So those municipal citations, the health department shutdown order, and then Governor Murphy's executive order to close, which is what the governors were using to do all this stuff. They took that all together and they went to a judge and they got a court order from a judge to shut us down. So that's where our trouble really began. Because there was no real tangible punishment for like municipal citations. It's like a fine. It's like $50 fine. They're like traffic tickets. And the violation of governor's order citation, which is funny, they've never had to prosecute anybody on it in the state of New Jersey. So they didn't even know how or what, like, and it's this archaic statute. Like, it's not even in the updated criminal code. It's like from like the late 1800s it was written. So like, it's not up to standards in terms of the courts. So, there was no punishment. They kicked it to the judge. The judge gave us a court order. That's where now all of these big punishments came. First, they locked our doors. They came in the middle of the night and they changed the locks on our doors and locked us out of our own facility. We broke back in. changed the lock back. They started fining us $15,497.76 per day for every day that we were open. That accumulates pretty quickly because we had about 8 or 9 months of that, maybe more. So, I mean, figure whatever that, times it by that many days. Yeah. They took $200,000 from our business bank account. They just seized it right in the middle of ongoing litigation. That money was from donations because we weren't charging anybody. We didn't resume billing when we opened back up. It was free.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was donations and that was legal funds. So they took our legal funds in the middle of ongoing litigation against them. Then from there, they went after us personally. They pierced the corporate veil. So they broke our LLC in court. How, I don't even know, but the judge permitted it. So they went after us they went after us personally for the debt. They suspended my Venmo. They emptied my Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, all that. I was taken off all platforms, and they seized all of the money that I had in there. They tried to go after personal assets and stuff like that as well. They were unsuccessful. We then were given criminal charges. So first we had civil contempt of court. Then we had criminal contempt of court because they went to come lock our doors again for a second time. We took the doors off of the hinges, and we stayed open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until they arrested us. We were criminally charged for taking the doors off. They came back and they boarded up our doors. So when we got out of jail, we came and kicked the doors in. They applied wood and kicked it in. We were given a criminal charge for that as well. They were trying to give us 5 years. We did take a plea deal on that because it was too hard we were on too many fronts fighting. So we couldn't spend more money in the criminal court. We both took a year probation and just said, fuck off. And then it sort of died down. It got kicked into the courts and it started moving really slow. And the last thing is they suspended our business license. So they revoked our business license. So then they opened gyms right back up after that. They took our business license and they opened gyms a week later. Obviously that was that was a Governor Murphy move, and that's fine. Because we got him and he got us. So it's funny. A little side note: when we kicked those doors open, we had people feeding us information who were sympathetic to us, whether it was police, state police. We had friends. People who couldn't openly support us, but, would send us messages. And there was this woman, I'll never know who she is. She used to send us anonymous emails from Governor Murphy's office. She was one of his aides or something like that. So when we kicked the doors in, I got an email the next day and it was, she had her code name or whatever it was. I'm sure it wasn't real, but, she's like, hey, it's me again. I just wanted to let you know that you guys really got him this time. She said, when he found out that you guys kicked the doors in, and the gym's open again, she's like, I heard yelling and banging coming from his office. So at that point in the game, when they took our business license and reopened the gym, it was you're in a brawl at this point. So it's nothing comes as a surprise. You just got to be oh, all right, you got that. You won that battle, So 2 years into it, the Township were the people that took our business license, and we just kept suing them and suing them and suing them. And we would lose and lose and lose. And eventually the mayor contacted our lawyers and said, hey, these guys can't keep this up. When are they going to, they're hurting the town because every time we go to court, taxpayers have to pay for it. He's like, when are they going to quit? And our lawyers were like, do you not see them on the news? They're not quitting. He's like, if you want to end it for the town, just give the licenses back. And we got the licenses back the next week.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, so the Township
you are resilience personified. Yeah. Holy shit, man. I didn't realize it was, I followed it, but obviously not.
It's hard to keep track of everything.
It's hard to
we all had our own kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this, because for those that are not watching this on YouTube or watching it on Spotify, you're a big dude. You're a big guy. And I think your business partner was a pretty big guy as well. Did it ever get physical with any of these guys? When they showed up to the place or they boarded you guys up or any of that stuff? Man, I'm not a big guy and I feel like I would lose my temper. But man,
we had to be, it's a good question because the anger was certainly there. 100%. But realized very early on that that would be used against me.
Yeah.
If I'm like a raving lunatic and I'm like, like screaming, the press was good to us, whether they agree with us or disagree with us. I did every interview. I mean, we went on CNN, we went on Chris Cuomo, we went on TMZ, I did probably 300 different interviews over the course of the 4 years.
Wow.
And that doesn't include like podcasts and speaking engagements. Like being seen and heard was our biggest weapon, because we could continue to say, look how crazy these people are. Like, look. And like every day that went by, everybody at the gym is just like smiling and like nobody's getting sick. We have a contact tracing system. You can see every single person who's been in the gym, like, we're good here, and then, oh yeah, they just fined us $2 million. Like, there's Crazy Murphy. So that was our friend. But it was very important that you maintain composure, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to see the dumb meatheads, who are angry
Yeah.
and violent. And we tried our best to be respectful to police. Although I don't disagree with how many cops handled it. I won't stereotype and or put them, throw out the baby with the bathwater on that. But it was very hard to maintain respect for police when they were doing things that they knew were wrong and were choosing to do it because it protected their job and not ours. And there were certain cops who definitely didn't mind doing it, or at least pretended like they didn't. I don't know if that's a tough guy persona. And we were not nice to them. Never anything physical, but I mean, like the captain, on day one, the captain of the Belmar Police Department came up, and it was like there was like 700 people in the parking lot. And the gym was full, and we had all these supporters and the police were there, and he came up in the middle of the day, and it looked like we were going to get arrested. And there's a video of it online somewhere, probably on Twitter. And the crowd's all mad, and I silenced them, and he goes, I'm here to let you know that you're all in violation of the governor's orders. And he said, on that note, everybody be safe, have a nice day. And he was relieved of duty instantly, and the guy who took over was a real dick.
Wow.
And we were not nice to him. Like, we were very disrespectful. Like, he'd drive by and it was like no respect for him whatsoever. Whereas other police, like the state police in New Jersey, they were ordered to come in on day 3, whatever their like SWAT tactical unit is. They were ordered to come in and shut us down. And when they found out where they were going, they said no. So I have a lot of respect for for individuals like that. But it was hard to maintain composure, but it had to be that way, or we wouldn't have been able to get as far as we did.
Oh, amazing, dude. I've looked at so many clips and I give you so much credit. And, a big part of why I even wanted to talk to you was I've always been so impressed at how you've handled these situations. I mean, people don't realize this was a big deal. And I think the way you just described all that, hopefully more people understand just how tumultuous this situation was. This wasn't just, hey, my gym is closed. I mean, you racked up, I think, millions of dollars worth of fines. I'm sure
I stopped counting after $1 million, but I'm sure it's probably at least past 2.
What happened to that stuff? Did it get
So,
relieved, or did you have to
fast
pay
forward
it?
past the business licenses came back, and that was about 2 years. Then it was just really in appeals court for a very long time. I actually sold my portion of the gym, still involved with like the legal stuff as it pertains to me. I ran for Congress, and then I moved out of the state. Once the threat of us being shut down was gone, it was just really time for me to move on to other projects. And running for Congress and owning a gym at the same time, especially a new business, it wasn't fair to my partner. So he deserves to kind of have it if I was going to move on to things and not just retain my percentage and never be there. So 2 years go by, it's just really slow. And just recently, all 80 of those municipal citations were dropped. They just never wanted to touch them, because these people know, like, when they do these things, they know it's wrong, and they know that most times, like, when you go up against a big entity, whether it's government or corporations, like, they know that they can get away with a lot, because in order for you to prove the wrongdoing and get retribution, there's a long road and usually an expensive road to get there.
Right.
And we were very, very fortunate. People gave us a lot. People donated over and over again. They bought T-shirts. I mean, we sold so many T-shirts that made us able to finance a huge. I mean, we didn't make money. I mean, it wasn't what but we were able to not be destroyed financially by the burden of this. Last count was like $750,000 in lawyer fees. That doesn't include the fines and stuff like that. So it was a lot. But we were very fortunate. We were very, very fortunate in that sense. There's a lot of people who stood up and couldn't bear that load because they didn't have the eyes on them that they did. But 4 years in, those charges were dropped. The state would not touch them. The township would not touch them after months and months and months and months of asking for discovery, years of asking for discovery, 4 years actually. The judge in a different township finally, because we couldn't be in the township, there was a conflict of interest. So we were in a neighboring township. She gave them plenty of time, and she said this is a violation of the right to a speedy trial. These are all dismissed with prejudice. So that is a small victory, because those weren't the threat of those charges being found against us was not oh my God, we're going to go to prison for 10 years. But they are part of the basis of all of that other stuff that was built upon it. So big win, significant win, but a small win. Now we have the ability to go back and say, is this court order no longer valid because the municipal charges that you aim and brought forth for the court order are no longer valid? So it's a slow road. That's kind of where it's at now. If we can invalidate the court order, we can not only get back what's been taken, but then you can move forward for some from retribution or some remedy, as they would call it in the court. So it'll be a long time before that, though. It'll probably be another at least year or two. It moves very, very slow. It's amazing. We used to get called in court on the same day. Our lawyers would call us and say, "Get ready for court." And we'd be like, "When?" They'd be like, 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
Literally. And that's not that much of an exaggeration. Maybe it was an hour. But when you move against the state, it just moves very, very slow. So we'll stay tuned for that.
So the gym is still open, though, right? The gym is still open and functioning. Your business partner, is it the same business partner as you had before?
Same guy that was my partner, and he's running it. The gym's like it always was, just a hardcore, good, inviting place. Small business, great equipment, great environment, great people in there, which is what we set out to do, and that's what we wanted to open a gym for in the first place. So there's some sense of normalcy back there.
I hope that the trials and tribulations of all that almost turned it into a little bit of a cult gym, in the sense of having that fame to it, and hopefully his business is up and running and good, man, because that's a lot, dude. I can't believe you guys persevered through that. I mean, that is, it seems to me it would be so easy at so many points just to give up and just to be you know what, I can't deal with this. This is, because it's all consuming. I'm sure it must have been just absolutely consuming. So dude, my hat is off to you.
We made a promise in the beginning that we would if we were going to do it, we were going to send it full send. We're going all the way in. And very fortunate for us. We got fortunate in a lot of ways, with support and stuff like that. But we were on the same page for almost everything. There were a lot of businesses that one partner felt one way and one felt the other, or they both felt the same way, but one was scared and didn't want to do it. We were both like, no, this is BS. We're doing it. So we were very fortunate in that sense to be able to sort of lean into each other. Because there were days where it was you're getting fined $15,000 a day. It's the first one you kind of laugh at, and then it hits 10,000, or it hits it hits six figures, 100,000, and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
totally. You start to think am I fucking crazy? Am I gonna ruin my life over this? And then it hits 1 million, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm too far. I'm too. You eventually get to a point where you're like, no, I'm right. And I think that's a huge part, is we knew that we weren't wrong. We
Yeah.
knew it was very clear that we were right, and it didn't matter what anybody thought or said about us or tried to do to us. We were 100% sure that we were not harming anybody. We never did. And in fact, we helped so many people. We were having almost 1,000 people a day come to the gym during the height of COVID. And like people were coming from multiple states on a daily basis. I remember I have a lot of really great memories of interactions with people, but on day one that we reopened, there was a member of our gym. I'll leave his name out, and he's an awesome dude. He's a highly decorated former Marine. There's no such thing as a former Marine, but he's a retired Marine. Did several tours in the Middle East. Got 2 Purple Hearts. Is just like an absolute warrior of a man. Regardless of what you think about war or anything like that, this is somebody that you want on your side. And if he's loyal to you, he'll like he serves his country. That's the best way you could say it, and served it with great honor. He came to us looking for a gym, because he couldn't really fit in at one, because he trains really, really hard. And he does that because he's seen and done a lot that nobody should ever really have to do. He's come home with a head full of trauma from his service to his country, and the options for him are go to the VA and get medicated, self-medicate, with alcohol, or go to the gym. And that's what he did every day. And every day he would leave, he'd come early in the morning, 7:00. I always get like choked up when I tell this story. He would come in the morning before COVID at 7:00 every morning. And he would leave like an hour and a half later, just like a shade darker, because he had just sweat from everything he's wearing.
That's amazing.
And when he goes home, he can be a father to his 2 children, and he can be a husband to his wife. And without that, he can't. So day one, when we opened those doors, we had chained ourselves inside, and we opened the doors to a full parking lot. He was the first person in line.
Love that.
He was there at like about 4:00 in the morning. And he came up and he hugged both of us, and he said, thank you. And he said, you don't know how close I was.
I believe it. I was just about to say, you guys saved this guy's life. You literally
and
probably
he said that.
saved
He's like,
his
you
life.
guys saved me. It's like, and he's like, call Yasuhiro. And it's like, dude, no matter how hard it gets, stuff like that, it's like, nah, man, like we're on the right side of this. No matter how painful it gets, no matter dark, how scary it gets, like, and that was like one of a million stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had old World War II vets come to us, and they're not even working out. They just came to check out the gym, and they're like, man, I hate to see where this country's going. Like, I want to give you my challenge coin. Like coming from like some guy who probably stormed the beaches, and he's looking at me like I'm a hero. And it's like, because he can't do anything now. He's 80 or whatever he is. And it's like, man, that stuff was like an anchor. And it's still like, I think about it now, and I'm like, man, like I can't believe somebody like that, a real hero, said that to us. So it's like, man, fuck that $15,000. Like, and fuck the next one, and the next one after that. You know what I mean?
That's insane, dude. Well, listen, on that, I mean, you guys were definitely on the right side of that. I'm glad that with time that is becoming more and more obvious. I hope at some point somebody options the rights and makes a movie out of this, or you write a book on this and then the book gets optioned. But dude, what an amazing story, which again, we could talk about for another hour. But since I have you, I want to shift gears a little and talk about fitness and rejuvenation, and also CBD, because I know you're big on that. I honestly, one of the things that again really drew me to this interview with you is the ability to talk geopolitics and fitness. So give us your thoughts on overall fitness. Like, I don't know how old you are, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, I have no idea, but like, give us your playbook for really keeping the body and mind healthy. You know, I'd love for you to share your fitness regimen and philosophies.
Yeah. So, I formed my fitness philosophy sort of over time. I've always been a little bit of an out of the box trainer, a little bit different. That's kind of why I went independent, and I've worked with hundreds of clients through the years, if not over 1,000 at this point, one-on-ones and coaching as well. And fitness is something is different for everybody, right? A lot of people make this mistake and they see fitness, right? They see a chiseled body and they see, and that is one thing, but fitness is about health, right? It's not about how big your muscles are. It's not about this single indicator. It's about what's best for you, and where you feel and perform your best over a long period of time, right? So, and this isn't a dig at anybody or anything, but like take bodybuilding, for example. Bodybuilding does not equate to fitness. Granted, they are really strong and they are, they look incredible, but bodybuilding is about a single presentation, right? So they're not looking like that all the time or walking around like that all the time. Their body's constantly going through flux, and that's cool. That's for them. But for the average person, it doesn't look like that. For the average person, I think sensible goals is to be as well-rounded as possible, and sort of focus on areas that you enjoy the most. I used to, again, I trained general population. I trained a lot of women, and I got a lot of women into weightlifting because it was something that they thought that they couldn't do. Or that they didn't understand the benefits of. And it's like, oh, I don't want to get strong. It's like, well, you're not going to get strong and big, and I used to laugh at people and be like, I've been at this for 20 years and this is how big I am. Right. So like, you're not going to pick up a dumbbell and all of a sudden just grow. It doesn't work like that. It's not that, it's not that simple. But you can benefit from being stronger in proportion to your own size.
Yeah. And
So
by the
strength.
way, real quick, for those just listening, I'm going to guess you're like 6'3", maybe 250.
6'1", 265.
All right, 6'1", 265. All right, it's a big boy right there.
I could definitely stand to lose about 10 pounds of dad weight at this time, and that's actually currently what I'm doing in my fitness regimen. So
that's
but
hilarious.
fitness is about overall health and especially about longevity, right?
Yeah.
You look at anybody as they get older, and what happens is they stop moving. Right? Let's just boil it down to the simplest things. Like fitness is about movement and health is about movement and being able to do things and experience the world and go outside and go on walks and all of this. And the more of those things you do, the more healthier you'll become overall, because the benefits that you're getting from something as simple as like a walk outside is much more than like the calories burned. The fresh air, the sunlight, the mental clarity, it's hard to quantify all of it. But for anybody,
I love that, dude. I love that. Listen, I wear an Apple Watch and a Fitbit, so I track my steps. I track everything I can, but I love what you just said about movement. Absolutely.
let's see that.
Yeah, I lost you there for a second.
You're back. Apple Watch.
What I was saying was I got an Apple Watch on this wrist, a Fitbit on this wrist. I personally have trust issues, but aside from that, what you said about movement, and actually I've said this a million times, but hopefully people will listen coming from a seasoned professional like yourself. That's the key, man. You got to move. And I love where you just took it. Yeah, it is. It is. And I love where you just took it because I've never taken it there.
We tend to over, like, especially for somebody who's like, quote unquote, not in shape. We tend to look at fitness as like this like scale, this mountain where we don't know what the first step is because we're looking at like the peak, right? Like you're looking at somebody who, man, I wish I was that guy. I wish I was as strong as him. And it's like, you're looking at this mountain that you have no idea how to climb. And the reality is that, fitness is about just learning about your body and what works best, because we are all built exactly the same, right? We all have the same basic components, but we're all incredibly unique. There's a multitude of factors that make you unique. So what what is best for you as an individual is never going to be the same as what's best for the next individual. But there's not a need to overcomplicate it. There's not a need to get it right on the first try. I've gone through so many different sort of phases in my health. You know, I used to be big into sort of like MMA training, and my endurance was crazy. And I got into weightlifting, and I was obsessed with being strong. And as I get older, I'm looking more towards sort of balance. I like being strong, but I also don't want to be tired because I'm so heavy. Or I haven't done any conditioning that like I can't play with my son. You know, so it's just about moving. That's it. Like I always recommend people start with a walk, go for a daily walk every day, and you're going to be inspired to do and try other things. Some of them you may love, some of them you may not love. I just recently found out that I love to swim. I moved down to Florida, and I have a pool, and I jumped in it and realized that like I hadn't really swam a whole lot since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I realized also that like I suck at swimming. You know, like, and I was like, man, that's kind of scary, like not being able to swim well. You know, like I live in an area where water is like, man, if I ever found myself in trouble, like I should probably learn how to tread water. And I started there. And then the benefits I got from it were incredible. I started feeling better in my neck and my shoulders. I sort of healed all these other things that are going on. So you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to start experimenting and really pay attention. You know, that's like the big thing is you should always be, you don't want to go in and just like blindly be in the gym, like pushing and pulling stuff. Like you should pay attention to how you're feeling. You should pay attention to if things are challenging, why they're challenging, what is hurting, where are you weak? And really what you put into it is what you get. The more you're kind of like, you know, with the Apple Watch and the Fitbit, like those are tools that pull your attention to data and to information so that you can understand, hey man, I feel really good when I walk about 15,000 steps per day. My energy levels are really good. And then, you know, you're like, man, I don't feel so good. And you look back at your data and you're like, well, I've been a bum for 3 days and my body's telling me like, get up and get moving. But whatever you fall into, it's going to keep you young. You look at anybody who's over the age. I read this interesting statistic. I saw it online, and I'm sure it might be true or not true, but it sounds pretty close. Let's just say that. And they said by the time your average adult reaches 30 years old, they will never sprint again.
Interesting.
And I forget what, like it was like 8 out of 10 or something like that. But you look at the population and you're like, that's probably pretty true. You know, you look at the condition of most Americans, we're fatter than ever, we're sicker than ever, we're less productive than ever, we're less skilled than ever. You know, and that's a result of mass complacency where people no longer do things as simple as like, hey, I'm going to take a daily walk, you know, because I work in the office all day, I drive a lot, I'm home with the kids, you know, and it would be really good for me to get that daily walk. But you watch people over time, and I've worked with them for years, guys that are 30, women that are 30, 40, you know, 1 kid, 2 kids, and they are not in good shape. I mean, and I don't mean like, we're not talking about their appearance. I'm talking about like their functionality, like not being able to step up on an 18-inch box because your leg isn't strong enough to support your weight. Or not being able, one thing I always saw, like jumping is another one. You know, past a certain age, most people will never jump again. Like, why not?
Funny. That's funny.
You know, it's like, I would teach people, like box jumps, you know, simple box jumps, but I would have to start with a lot of people at a box that was like as high as a curb. And this isn't a dig at anybody. But it would blow your mind how many people were scared or unable to do it at first and literally had to relearn a basic movement of jumping up onto like a 3-inch curb. And that's just because they don't move. People don't move. So, you know, fitness is awesome. It's the best gift you can give yourself. Health
it absolutely is. You know, that's interesting. The sprinting and the jumping, That's funny. I actually had a similar thought process. I literally yesterday at the gym, these guys were playing hoops, and I played basketball growing up, but man, I haven't played in years. And so I literally was like watching these guys, and I'm like, am I never gonna play basketball again? Like, is that phase
It's
of
another
my
one.
life done? But then I was like, no, I need to not make that done. But what you said is even more interesting. Like, man, I haven't just sprinted in a long time, or even jumping. That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit about, all right, just to summarize that, I think I might have froze on you a second.
Yep,
There
you're
we
good.
go. I'm back. Okay. I love the movement. It sounds like you've incorporated swimming into things. What about weights? I mean, where do you net out on that? Weight training, is that that's got to be part of your regimen, right? Or give us
Yeah.
the
I mean,
top three or four things.
my personal routine is a daily walk. And I always try to make it outside. Walking on a treadmill is not the same as walking. Um, like the ground is moving under you and you're kind of just picking your feet up, whereas like when you're walking on the ground, you're propelling yourself. It's quite a bit different. And that's not to say it doesn't count, but take a nice outdoor walk. I take one once a day, sometimes twice a day. Like a brisk walk too, like don't dawdle. And recently I've used I used the Go Ruck bags. So I have like a 50 pound Go Ruck bag
Oh, wow.
that I just throw on. And that's a great way to start with something easy. And as it gets easier, or start with something that is difficult, right? A 45-minute walk might be challenging for some people. That's challenging for most people, is a brisk 45-minute walk. When that becomes easy, throw some weight on and you'll get stronger and stronger, and that'll make you faster. It'll make you lighter on your feet, all these other things. So I do that. And then I weight lift about 4 days a week. Your average person, that's sufficient. Unless you're trying to specialize and you have you really want to grow, right? You might want to lift more days. Or if you want to get really strong, you might want to lift more days. But 4 is usually good for most people. Men, women, doesn't really matter the age. You can cover your whole body. And resistance training is always good. It's going to help keep muscle on you. Muscle is an active tissue. That's going to help keep your metabolism moving as you get older. That's something that you see people start to lose muscle mass after the age of 25. And then, once you lose that muscle mass, your metabolism starts to slow down. And then typically it's a negative feedback cycle. As your metabolism slows, you get fatter. As you get fatter, your metabolism slows down more. And then all of a sudden you've gained 50 pounds very quickly. So weightlifting is just a great one for anybody. I do that 4 days a week. I hit the heavy bag, usually 5 days a week. I don't really, I don't have the time quite yet to do like MMA. Something I wanted to get into with jujitsu. Just something I've wanted to learn. I have like zero experience. But I hit the heavy bag about 5 days a week. I'll go just for about 30 minutes, and just put on a timer and just alternate 1 minute on. I start with 1 minute on, 1 minute off. As you get sort of more conditioned, you can do a minute 15 on, 45 off, whatever variables you want to play with. But that's good. It gives me great sort of sprinting cardio, on off. And then I try to tread water every day. I usually just do like a couple minute rounds. I started actually with 30 seconds. And then I just go grab the ledge and I'd wait and then I go back. Now I work my way up to like 5-6 minute rounds. I do like 3 of them in the morning. That's a great way for me to wake up. Because for me, especially, if I don't get up and get moving, my whole day is sort of slow. Like I need to get up and I need to have my morning wins right away. And that's like an easy one for me is I just go jump out into the pool and it takes zero effort for me to go do that. And that's really the bulk of it there.
I love it. I love it. I love the morning wins. All right, really quick, let's talk 2 more things. Diet. Any real tips on diet? Because I have to imagine you kind of, that's part of the health regimen.
Yeah. So diet, again, is something that people overcomplicate like crazy. You want to lose weight, you should track your calories. You should get yourself a macro counter. Yes, it is annoying to do, but if you want to lose the weight, it's the easiest way to do it. We're all different. Again, just like I said, you and I could be the same age, pretty much the same height, same sort of build. You could burn more calories than I do on a regular basis. Just because of the way you're built genetically, but also, we're not together doing the same exact thing every day. You may have more active time than me. So use a calorie counter to kind of track what you're eating. And then you can change the numbers of what you're eating. You know, if you're not losing weight, you know, that means you have to cut your calories. So you say, all right, I'll eat 500 less calories or 250 less calories. And the same thing goes with weight gain. It's very, very simple. You want to gain weight, you have to have a caloric surplus. But you can't do that blind. You need the data. You know, you showed me the Apple Watch. I love stuff like that. I don't wear the Apple Watch. I have a Whoop. But the data is your friend because it allows you to make educated choices moving forward, and it allows you to learn about what works and what doesn't. When it comes to actual food, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Fruit, single ingredient meals, things like beef and rice, meat and rice, super easy. The less processed it is, the better. You know, it's so much, and there's so much evidence for it, but there's a mountain of evidence that shows that the food that we eat generally, the highly processed food, it may have X amount of calories and stuff, but there's so many sort of additives and chemicals and other things that affect our bodies that this food is making us fat. So you can be like, oh, well, I only ate, 1,500 calories today, but you had a McDonald's cheeseburger, and a bag of Funyuns. It's not the same as 1,500 calories of fruit and meat and some vegetables. Just find what you like. Like, I don't like a lot of stuff, but I love bananas, and I crush bananas, and I crush blueberries. And I like fruit. I'm not big on vegetables. I get them where I can. And get your protein from meat sources. Beef is like a superfood. Things like raw milk, things like raw cheeses. Like, you want to be as close to your food source as possible. Don't buy your eggs from the grocery store. Buy them from the corner market. And if you do buy them from the grocery store, spend the extra money and get the pasture-raised ones. But keep it simple in terms of ingredients. The less ingredients you have in there, the better you're going to feel and the better your results will be.
All right, fantastic. All right, last thing, let's talk CBD, because I think that's one of your businesses as well. And at the end of this, I'm going to have you share where we can find you and support you and all that stuff. But, CBD is something I've never really gotten into. So I'd love a kind of just your top line thoughts on it, and then what products you guys support and your business and all that. Let us know about that.
Sure. So, I have a CBD company. I'm a partner at a CBD company. We're called Recovery CBD. CBD came onto the scene years ago and sort of exploded onto the U.S. market suddenly. And there was a gold rush of people who opened up CBD companies because there was this new market. And it sort of, the bottom fell out of it quite a bit. Reason being, a lot of the product wasn't great, but also like you said, you don't know a lot about CBD. So it's hard to sell a bottle that's $120 to somebody who doesn't really understand what it is and what it does. So there wasn't a whole lot of customer, sort of education. So CBD is a cannabinoid that comes from the cannabis plant. It is not a psychedelic. So it's not THC. THC is the substance that gets you high. CBD is what's called a cannabinoid. It's a chemical. They're in your body anyway. You find cannabinoids in breast milk and all sorts of stuff. And there's a whole class of them. CBD is one of them. It's an anti-inflammatory, is its sort of main property. So inflammation, when it comes to the body, is the source of pretty much every type of dysfunction and disease that there is. And inflammation can come in many different forms. It can come in the form of like swollen muscle tissues, right? So if you have tendinitis, which is something that a lot of people deal with, tennis elbow, that's caused from inflammation. It's angry, like sort of bent up, banged up, not stretched and well taken care of muscles that are inflamed and thus causing discomfort. A lot of diseases are like that too, that they're caused from inflammation. So having an anti-inflammatory present in your system is going to do wonders to combat that inflammation. So it's going to make you just feel better overall. CBD is definitely a daily product. It's like a multivitamin, right? So if you take a multivitamin for one day, it doesn't really do anything for you. The benefit that you get is having those vitamins present in your system day after day after day so that they can be utilized. And these are things that are called micronutrients, right? I just talked about macronutrients. That's your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fat. Micronutrients are all your vitamins and minerals that have all these complex jobs in the body, right? So vitamin D3 is a really important one that most people are deficient in. Vitamin D3 has to do with a whole lot of things, but it affects your hormone system. So having the CBD in your system daily sort of lowers the overall inflammation over time, and thus your body's just going to sort of run better overall. So that's one sort of major thing. And then it's got a whole bunch of other remedies when it comes to acute pain, disease and dysfunction. There's a lot out there. We have a couple people who use our product that have vaccine injuries, and it allows them to, it doesn't cure it by any stretch of the imagination, but it decreases the symptoms that they have. We have people who use it who are cancer patients for pain and neuropathy and stuff like that. So wide range of stuff, all kind of has to do with inflammation, but it can help in a variety of ways. Pain is usually one of them, but dysfunction as well in terms of, something going wrong with the body. And there's a wealth of information out there. If anybody has any questions, you can message directly and we'd be happy to chat with you about it, because it's important that people understand what it is. So we have a company that's based out of Maine. It's called Recovery CBD. We are one of the few companies that manufacture their own CBD. We manufacture it here in the United States. Most of it is white labeled, so some big companies making it and just slapping a label on it.
Yeah.
Our product is also 100% THC free. There's no need to have it in there for two reasons. One, it doesn't, a lot of people don't know what a little bit of THC means. And they're like, no, I don't want any, even though it's not enough to really get them high or anything like that. Some people can't, a lot of people who have jobs that require drug testing and stuff like that. And the reason it's in there is based on a really kind of skewed study. It's called the synergistic effect, where if the ratio of CBD to THC is 1-to-1, there's sort of a synergistic effect between the two chemicals that sort of help with other things. However, no CBD on the market that has THC is 1-to-1. It's trace elements of CBD or THC. So it's a lower quality product because to isolate anything means it's more pure. So we have 100% CBD. And that's really, really important because A, there's no need for it in there. And B, it makes it taste like crap too. It gives it like an earthy taste. So 100% THC free. We have a whole line of products. We have what are called tinctures. They're the things that you sort of, little oil you put under your tongue. That would be like your daily one. We have sleep products as well that have CBD, and another one called CBN. Again, just another cannabinoid. And that is a mild sedative, helps you go to sleep and stay asleep, non-habit forming, really good stuff. We have pet tinctures, and then we have oils and rubs for skin. So we have like an icy hot, which is good for muscle and joint pain. We have like a tiger balm, which is just the opposite of icy hot, so menthol cooling. It's got like cinnamon and pepper in it, so it sort of opens up and gives you that heating there as well. And then we have a whole line of other products as well. There's a wide range of them, but it's great for anybody, just to sort of take it as a daily supplement, but especially for people that have any type of pain. The CBD rubs, not only does it helps sort of curb the pain, but the CBD again acts as an anti-inflammatory. So
anti-inflammatory.
If you pull your back, if your back muscles are all jacked up, you throw some CBD on it, it's not going to fix it, but it lowers the inflammation. And what that does is, as the inflammation is lower, the body can get in and do what it needs to do properly.
Got it. That makes total sense, man. I'm a huge advocate of minimizing inflammation. I think inflammation is the root of all issues internally in the body. Sugar is one of the primary culprits of that. So I've talked a lot about inflammation.
A lot of our food is very inflammatory.
Absolutely. All right, listen, man, I will get all the links for your various businesses, your Instagram. By the way, everybody should follow you on Instagram. I love your stuff. You have over 370,000 followers there. I think 125,000 on Twitter, 20,000 on your Facebook page. People are listening, man. And seriously, I give you so much respect for the resilience that it took to get through what you went through. I'm really glad that stuff for the most part is behind you, and you can put all your energy toward helping people feel better. But then also, I'm going to have you back on if you're willing, because we didn't even get into the geopolitical stuff, but I love
We
the
can
way
do
your
that.
mind
Absolutely.
works on that. We'll do a whole separate,
We'll do
a
it
whole
part
separate
two.
episode on that. All righty. And any parting words you want to share with us?
Until next time, we'll continue the conversation, and I'll have something planned for that, and we'll leave it off on a
Perfect.
good note there. But we'll leave it at a pause for now.
All right. Perfect, brother. Stay on the line a minute. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.